Hey guys, welcome to SK Educational Studies. Let us read chapter 2, The Adventures of Toto, written by Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond is a very famous Indian writer who writes most of the stories which are very humorous, means very funny. So here, before we start, let's read the overview, means the short synopsis. Here it is. Have you ever had a baby monkey as a pet? Toto is a baby monkey. Let's find out whether he is mischievous or docile. So here it's a story about a baby monkey called or named Toto, and we will find out whether he is mischievous, means he is naughty, or docile. Docile is the opposite of naughty, means we can say domesticated, kind. Okay. So let's now read. Grandfather bought Toto from a Tonga driver for the sum of 5 rupees. So it was grandfather who had purchased the baby monkey named Toto from a Tonga driver by paying just 5 rupees. The Tonga driver used to keep the little red monkey tied to a feeding trough, and the monkey looked so out of place there that the grandfather decided he would add the little fellow to his private zoo. So the Tonga driver, we can say the owner of the monkey, the Toto, used to keep Toto very often tied to a feeding trough. Tied to a feeding trough. Feeding trough here means feeding pot, and he was often kept tied with rope. And the monkey looked so out of place. So out of place means dejected, very sad. And when grandfather saw Toto in this condition, that how sad Toto was looking, he decided that he would purchase it and add it to his own private zoo, which means grandfather had a small private zoo at his home. Toto was a pretty monkey. His bright eyes sparkled with mischief beneath deep set eyebrows, and his teeth, which were pearly white, were all very often displayed in a smile that frightened the life out of elderly Anglo Indian ladies. So, the narrator has said it. Means, in fact, we can say it's a description of Toto. He was a pretty monkey, and his bright eyes sparkled. Sparkle means shone or shining brightly with mischief. Means his eyes, if anybody would look at his shining eyes, sparkled with mischief, means anyone can guess that this monkey is very mischievous, means very naughty. Beneath the deep set eyebrows and his teeth, which are pearly white, and his teeth exactly looked like that of the paws, white paws, were very often displayed in a smile that frightened the life out of elderly Anglo Indian ladies. And the way he smiled, the way he displayed his teeth, is definitely, we can say, really it makes the ladies, mostly the Anglo Indian ladies, elderly, we can say the senior, the old Anglo Indian ladies are quite afraid of Toto, the way he smiled. But his hands looked dried up as though they had been pickled in the sun for many years. Pickled just like we keep the pickles out in the open sun. Here, exactly the narrator has said that Toto's hand exactly looked like that of the dry, that of very dry, as if that it has been kept in the hot sun for many years. Yet his fingers were quick and wicked, and his tail, while adding to his good looks, grandfather believed a tail would add to anyone's good looks, also served as a third hand. So besides his fingers, though his fingers were very quick and wicked, means a lot of wicked or mischievous things he did with his fingers. His tail is also used to serve as a third hand. And grandfather believed that a tail adds to anyone's good looks, which is quite funny. He could use it to hang from a branch, and it was capable of scooping off any delicacy that might be out of reach of his hands. Delicacy here it means any fruit or any object of good taste. And scooping off here it means that holding up or catching up. So, what could Toto do with his tail, which is used to serve as a third hand? Means he used to hang it from branch to branch, and when he could not reach to the things with his two hands. He then used his tail as a third hand, and it was capable enough to catch any delicacy, means any delicate things which is out of his reach by his hands. Grandmother always fussed when grandfather brought home some new bird or animal. So grandmother always fussed. Fussed means we can say quarreled when grandfather used to bring home some birds or new birds or animals. So it was decided that Toto's presence should be kept a secret from her until she was in a particular good mood. So finally, it was decided that Toto's presence will be kept as a secret from her grandmother until she was not in a good mood. Only when she will be in a good mood, then means in a positive, in a pleasant mood, the secret of Toto will be revealed before her. Grandfather and I put him away in a little closet, means little gap, opening into my bedroom wall, where he was tied securely, means safely, or so we thought, to a peg fastened into the wall. Peg means we can say cylindrical wooden or a metal rod where the objects used to be hung, means hanged. So grandfather and the narrator, here I refers to the narrator Ruskin Bond, they put him away in a little gap opening into his bedroom wall, and there he was tied securely and safely to a peg. A few hours later, when grandfather and I came back to release Toto, we found that walls, which had been covered with some ornamental paper chosen by grandfather, now stood out as naked brick and plaster. So, what happened that when they returned few hours later, they found that the walls, which were covered with some ornamental papers. Ornamental papers means we can say some beautiful papers, like there are some places where in the house where people like to cover the plaster by pasting it with some very good papers which has good photos, pictures, like that. So when they came back, they found that these papers were torn out completely, and it was exactly looking like naked brick and plaster. The peg in the wall had been wrenched from its socket. Wrenched, we can say that twisted, or we can say that it is loosened from its socket. The peg, the cylindrical wooden or metal object which was joined with its socket, it had been wrenched, means it had been loosened. And my school blazer, which had been hanging there, was in shreds. Shreds means in pieces. And his school blazer, which had been hanging there, had torn into shreds, means pieces, because Toto had torn it into pieces. I wondered what grandmother would say, but grandfather didn't worry. He seemed pleased with Toto's performance. Narrator was very worried because he thought that if grandmother would come to know, definitely she would be very angry. But grandfather did not seem worried at all. Rather, he was very happy with Toto's performance, means mischievous. His act of mischievous. He is clever, said grandfather. Given time, I am sure who could have tied the torn pieces of a blazer into a rope and made his escape from the window. It's a very funny comment that grandfather has made it here. He told the narrator that if Toto would be given some few hours, then he was very much sure that Toto would have torn these pieces of blazer into a rope and would have escaped from this window by using this blazer as a rope. His presence in the house still a secret. Toto was now transferred to a big cage in the servants' quarters, where a number of grandfather's pets lived very sociably together. A tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel. Tame squirrel means a domesticated or trained squirrel, and for a while my pet goat. So after this mischievous act, Toto was then transferred to a big cage which was in the servants' quarters with number of other pets, like we can say tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel, and the narrator's pet goat. But the monkey did not allow any of his companions, means any of his friends, to sleep at night. So grandfather, who had to leave there the next day to collect his pension in Saharanpur, decided to take him along. So finally, grandfather who was leaving for Dehradun the next day to collect his pension in Saharanpur. Sorry, he had to leave Dehradun. Yes, yes, exactly. He was leaving Dehradun because he had to collect his pension in Saharanpur. So he decided that he would take Toto with him as well. And the reason, what's the reason behind this? It's because Toto was very nutty, very mischievous, did not allow any one of his companions to sleep. Unfortunately, I could not accompany grandfather on that trip, but he told me about it afterwards. So it was really unfortunate, means unlucky for the narrator Ruskin Bird, as he could not accompany, means he could not give company to his grandfather on that trip, means could not be a part of that trip. However, he got to know about it afterwards from the grandfather. A big black canvas kit bag was provided for Toto. Canvas kit bags, a very thick kit bag, mainly used for the admittance and all that. This, with some straw at bottom, became his new abode. Abode means home or house or habitat. So, Toto's new abode was a big black canvas kit bag which had some straw at its bottom. When the bag was closed, there was no escape. Toto could not get his hand through the opening, and the canvas was too strong for him to bite his way through. So he was put inside it, and the chain was closed, through which Toto could not reach his hands because he could not open this, nor he could bite his way through because it was very strong, a thick canvas bag which is very strong. His efforts to get out only had the effect of making the bag roll about on the floor or occasionally jump into the air, an exhibition that attracted a curious crowd of onlookers. Onlookers means we can say spectators, means audience, on the Dehradun railway platform. However, when grandfather put him down, means put the big black canvas bag down at the railway platform, it was really a scene to be witnessed by the spectators present there at the platform, because Toto used to roll about on the floor and jump. So when he used to roll or jump, the bag used to roll about and jump into the air. So which was really a matter of great surprise and attraction for the passengers present there at the platform. Toto remained in the bag as far as Saharanpur, but while grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile, Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a wide grin. So Toto remained in the bag as long as grandfather has not reached Saharanpur, but while grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile, you can say it's a kind of gate, the round circular gate. Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag. Suddenly he poked his head, means we can say he brought his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a wide grin. Grin means laugh. Wide laugh. He laughed at the ticket collector. The poor man was taken aback. Here the poor man is the ticket collector. He was taken aback means he was completely surprised, but with great presence of mind and much to grandfather's annoyance. Grandfather's annoyance means grandfather's anger. He said, "Sir, you have a dog with you. You will have to pay for it." So here the ticket collector mistook Toto for a dog because Toto had just poked his head out of the bag and was giving a wide laugh. So he then told grandfather that he had to pay for this dog, which made grandfather quite annoyance, means quite angry. In vain did grandfather take Toto out of the bag. In vain did he try to prove that a monkey did not qualify as a dog or even as a quadruped. Quadruped means a four-legged animal. So we can say in vain means in anger. Grandfather took the Toto out of the bag because he was trying to prove that a monkey could not be called as a dog or even any other four-legged animal. Toto was classified a dog by the ticket collector, and 3 rupees was the sum handed over as his fare. However, the ticket collector still demanded that he had to pay for this animal, and he charged 3 rupees as the fare. Then grandfather, just to get his own back, took from his pocket out his pay tortoise and said, "What must I pay for this, since you charge for all animals?" The grandfather got more and more angry when the ticket collector charged 3 rupees for Toto, citing him as the dog. So he then brought his pet tortoise from his pocket and told the ticket collector that what he should charge for it. The ticket collector looked closely at the tortoise, prodded it with his finger, means touched it with his forefinger, gave grandfather a pleased and triumphant look and said, "No charge, it's not a dog." Then the ticket collector touched the tortoise with his forefinger and then said triumphantly, means happily, that it's no charge will be collected for this animal, since it's not a dog. Not animal, actually, here we can say that creature. When Toto was finally accepted by grandmother, he was given a comfortable home in the stables. Sorry, had he left? No. Yes. When Toto was finally accepted by grandmother, he was given a comfortable home in the stable, where he had for a companion the family donkey Nana. So when Toto was finally accepted by grandmother, he was given a comfortable home, as it was already mentioned. Home in the stable. He was finally kept in the stable, which was Toto's home, we can say, after grandmother accepted him. On Toto's first night in the stable, grandfather paid him a visit to see if he was comfortable. So, on Toto's first night in the stable, grandfather paid him a visited to see that how was Toto feeling, whether he was comfortable at his stable or not. To his surprise, he found Nana without apparent cause, means without any cause, pulling at a halter we can say the strap or the rope, and trying to keep her head as far as possible from a bundle of hay. Bundle of hay means a bundle of straw was provided to Nana, their family donkey, to eat, but he was refusing to eat, and he was pulling. Sorry, she, and she was pulling at a halter and trying to keep her head away as far as possible from the bundle of hay which was provided for her eating. Grandfather gave Nana a slap across her haunches. Across her haunches means her thighs or her back, and she jerked back means she moved back, dragging Toto with her. So actually, what was the reason? Why was she not eating the bundle of hay which was provided to her? And when grandfather saw that she was just pulling at a halter and refusing to eat, means refusing to eat and keeping a safe distance from the bundle of hay, grandfather slapped her. But the reason is that as soon as she jerked back, she dragged Toto with her. It means he had fastened unto her long ears with his sharp little teeth. It means that it was Toto who had fastened her long ears, means Nana's long ears, with the help of his little teeth. And that's why she could not reach the bundle of hay, and she was keeping a safe distance from it. Toto and Nana never became friends. It's obviously because Nana was slapped by grandfather, and it's all because of Toto's mischief. A great treat for Toto during the cold winter evenings was a large bowl of warm water given him by grandmother for his bath. So, a great treat for Toto during the cold winter evenings was the large bowl of warm water which was provided by grandmother for his bath. He would cunningly, means cleverly or wisely, test the temperature with his hand, then gradually step into bath, first one foot, then the other, as he had seen me doing, until he was into the water up to his neck. It's very clever. In fact, he had noticed the narrator doing this, so he was just imitating the same way. He was he would cunningly, means cleverly or wisely, test the temperature with his hand, then gradually step into bath. But first he would keep his first foot, then the second one, and then he would completely dip himself into the water up to his neck. Once comfortable, he would take the soap in his hands or feet and rub himself all over. When the water became cold, he would get out and run as quickly as he could to the kitchen fire in order to dry himself. So he would be still there inside the water as long as the water has not cooled. Once it would be cold, he would immediately get out of it and run as quickly as possible to the kitchen fire in order to dry himself. If anyone laughed at him during this performance, Toto's feelings would be hurt and he would refuse to go on with his bath. However, if anybody laughed at his performance, means while bathing, then he would be seriously hurt and he would refuse to go for a bath. One day, Toto nearly succeeded in boiling himself alive, means to his bad luck. One day, Toto could have boiled himself alive. How? Let's read and find out. A large kitchen kettle had been left on the fire to boil for tea and Toto. So one day there was a large kitchen kettle. It was left on the fire to boil for tea, means to prepare for tea. And Toto, finding himself with nothing better to do, decided to remove the lid. So what Toto did? He removed the lid, means he removed the cover of the kettle. Finding the water just warm enough for a bath, he got in with his head sticking out from the open kettle. So he means he tested the temperature of the water, which was just warm, and he got into it. Means he stepped into it, and sticking his head out from the open kettle, means bringing his head out from the open kettle. Remember, the kettle was on fire. This was just fine for a while until the water began to boil. So everything was fine until the water has not boiled. Toto then raised himself a little, but finding it cold outside, sat down again. So he raised himself a little, but finding itself, when he found itself that it is cold outside, he again put it down inside the warm water. He continued hopping up and down, means jumping up and down for some time until grandmother arrived and hauled him. Hauled him means pulled him half boiled out of the kettle. So to his good luck, we can say. Fortunately, it was grandmother who noticed Toto and hauled him out, means pulled him out half boiled out of the kettle, or else he would have been boiled alive. If there is a part of the brain especially devoted to mischief, that part was largely developed in Toto. So here the narrator has said that if there is any part of the brain which is devoted, means which is, we can say that, which is related to mischief, that part was largely developed in Toto. He was always tearing things to pieces. Whenever one of my aunts came near him, he made every effort to get hold of her dress and tear a hole in it. Toto had a very bad habit of tearing things into pieces. Here one such instance, when one of her aunts came near Toto, Toto held her and held her dress and tore a hole in it, means made a hole in it. One day at lunchtime, a large dish of pulao stood in the center of the dining table. We entered the room to find Toto stuffing himself with rice. Stuffing himself with rice means, we can say, playing himself with rice. So one day at lunchtime, the large dish of pulao stood in the center of the, means kept in the center of the dining table. When they entered the room to have it, they were surprised to find that Toto was stuffing himself with rice, means playing himself with rice. My grandmother screamed, means loudly shouted, and Toto threw a plate at her. So grandmother was very angry and she shouted angrily. Toto then threw a plate at her. One of my aunts rushed forward and received a glass of water in the face. In fact, one of her aunts rushed forward to we can say that to beat him. And what Toto did, Toto threw a glass of water in the face of her. When grandfather arrived, Toto picked up the dish of pulao and made his exit through a window. And finally, when grandfather arrived, Toto picked up that dish of pulao and left through the window. Exit means left through the window. We found him in branches of the jackfruit tree and the dish still in his arms. He remained there all afternoon, eating slowly through the rice, determined on finishing every grain. So what he did, he then climbed onto the branches of the jackfruit tree, and the dish was still with him in his arms, and he stayed there all afternoon on the branches of the jackfruit tree, and he ate slowly and determining that to finish every grain of it. And then, in order to spite grandmother means in order to make grandmother more and more angry, who had screamed at him, he threw the dish down from the tree and chattered with delight when it broke into 100 pieces. Toto was very angry when grandmother shouted at him. So to return this back to grandmother, he made her angry and he threw the dish down from the tree and the dish broken into 100 pieces, and Toto left chattering with delight, means left laughing. Obviously, Toto was not the sort of pet we could keep for long. Even grandfather realized that. We were not well to do, means not rich enough, and could not afford the frequent loss of dishes, clothes, cottons, and wallpaper. So, grandfather found the Tonga driver and sold Toto back to him for only 3 rupees. So, Toto was not the sort of pet, means not that kind of pet that they could keep at their home for long. Even grandfather realized that. And finally, grandfather realized this as well. It's because they were not well to do, they were not rich enough, and they could not afford, when they could not pay for the frequent loss of dishes, clothes, cottons, wallpaper, everything which was lost, which was destroyed by Toto. So grandfather found the Tonga driver and sold the Toto back to him. And finally, grandfather sold the monkey, the Toto, back to the Tonga driver only for 3 rupees. So this is what all about my explanation. I hope you like it. Please give your comments and feedbacks.